Hi ladies, this is lesson 4.5 and this is about more congruence shortcuts. So the ones that we just did in the last lesson, so we discovered that side, 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 yes, is a congruence shortcut. And side, angle, side, yes, is a congruence shortcut. But side, side, angle, no, is not a congruent shortcut. So we're going to look at a few more in this lesson. So today we're going to look at angle, side, angle. We're going to look at angle, angle, angle. And we're going to look at side, angle, angle. Alright, so in the last lesson we didn't really do any, we did a proof as to why side side angle would not work, but we didn't really show why the other two did work. So we're going to do a couple of those with angle, side, angle, 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 and side, angle, angle. So this is about constructing, so don't forget what you learned in chapter 3 about constructing angles. And you'll have to do this along with me in order to determine whether or not these are valid shortcuts or not. So make sure that you have your compass, and you'll also need, so you'll need a compass and straight edge to actually construct these angles and triangles, but you'll also need a ruler and a protractor so that we can compare. So you have one key vocab term. Last lesson we had the included angle as a vocab term, and this time we have an included side, and this is a side between two referenced angles. So this diagram here, you can see this is your included side. You have an angle here, and this is the side that connects those two angles. Alright, so let's look at this triangle. And we're going to try to determine which two angles are congruent just based on what we know already. So with these triangles, anytime you have a shared side, like DE, DE is in triangle AED, and it's in triangle CED. So DE we can mark as a shared side, and then we can use our linear pair conjecture to conclude that this is a shortcut. So last lesson, in lesson 4.3, we had that side angle side as the shortcut. So we can say that triangle AED is congruent to triangle CED because of side angle side shortcut. Alright, that's one pair of triangles. Alright, the next one we'll look at is, again, let's look at a triangle with another shared side that also has given information. So BE is a shared side of triangle AEB and triangle CEB. So again, we've got a side, and then using vertical angles conjecture and linear pair, we can conclude that these are both right angles. So again, we can use side angle side. So triangle AEB is congruent to triangle CEB because of side angle side. Now that we showed that those two triangles, AED and CED, are congruent, I'm going to erase these shared sides. We know that this side is congruent to this side because the triangles are congruent. And we also know that this side is congruent to this side. And let's see if that actually gets us any further, which I don't think it does. We don't know that this side and this side are congruent, so we can't really go any further. So this is all we really know so far. With the conjectures that we have so far, this is what we know. Okay, so now let's look forward to this first case in this lesson. Let's consider a case of angle side angle. So that means you have an angle, a pair of angles, two pairs of angles actually, in your two triangles that are congruent, and then you also have an included side. So let's construct this. So it says to the right, construct triangle TMN from the three parts shown. Be sure to match up the angles with the endpoints that are labeled with the same letter. So that's an important piece here. Okay, so we'll do this together. So the first thing you want to do is, actually I would probably just draw a segment first. And let's label this point M. Okay, so I need to duplicate my segment. So I'm going to do that by putting one endpoint here and one endpoint here. So I can go ahead and duplicate my segment by using my compass. So this point right here, that is point T. Now, it doesn't really matter where you duplicate your angles. You can duplicate them on any, like, this could have really gone anywhere. Could have drawn that segment anywhere. But you just need to have that side duplicated because that's our fixed side. That's going to be our included side. And then we need to duplicate angle M and angle T. All right, so let's use our compass. And if you remember how we duplicate angles, our first step is to draw an arc, and it can be anywhere, any size, but draw an arc. On your angle, and then you have to measure how big that arc is. So draw the arc. There we're duplicating angle M. Draw the same arc from point M, and then go back and measure how big was this angle. Alright, mine's not going to be perfect because it's like kind of glitchy. Okay, so once you measure how big your angle was, then mark that, and the point where it intersects with your first arc, that's your angle. Alright, so there's angle M. Now we need to duplicate angle T. So we're going to do the same thing, follow the same exact steps. to duplicate angle T, we're going to put our point on the vertex of angle T. We're going to draw an arc. We're going to draw that same arc over here on our new segment. And then we're going to measure how big that angle is. Oops. And then where our two arcs intersect, that's our angle T. All right, now see how my angles do not intersect? Depending on, well, yours probably will because, I mean, depending on where you put it on your note sheet. But you should end up with triangle TMN. So that last one is angle N. Now this angle, you're not going to have to form yourself. It's going to automatically form. You want to extend that segment that you drew to duplicate angle M and angle T, extend those until they intersect. So that will be your triangle. So I'm not going to do all these measures because they should be exactly the same, but go ahead and practice with your measurement tools to measure the angles, all three angles and all three segments in inches and in angles. And mine's going to look a little bit different because I'm doing it on this smart notebook. So the sizing I think is a little bit off, but you should, if you compare notes with somebody else who did this, the conjecture says if two angles and an included side of one triangle are congruent to two angles in the included side of another triangle, then the two triangles are congruent. And this is the shortcut angle side angle. So again, no matter who you compare with, if they duplicated angle M and angle T, and they duplicated segment MT, you should get the exact same measurements. Now, duplicating angles, sometimes they're a little bit off because of just human error, but if you're using some kind of geometry software, then it would be perfect. All right, let's consider this next case of angle, angle, angle. So again, I would start with a segment. And I'll call this first point P, and I'll duplicate that angle first. So right now I'm going to duplicate all these angles. I'm not actually going to have to duplicate all of them because the third one will form itself just by duplicating the first two. But I'll start by duplicating angle P. So again, this is considering the case if all three angles are congruent. Do you have congruent triangles? For sure. Well, let's start by duplicating angle P, and you can start with whichever angle you would like. It doesn't have to be angle P. You could do angle R or angle Q first if you wanted. I'm just going to do angle P. So duplicating an angle, our first step is to draw an arc. And then I'm going to go over to my segment, or my little segment that I just drew. I'm going to draw an arc, the same arc. Then I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to measure how big that arc is. This is how I duplicate an angle. And then the point where those two arcs intersect will give me a point on my angle, and the other point is my vertex. All right, so here's angle P. Now I'm going to duplicate angle R. So I'll change the color of my pen to blue. And then I'll move my compass up to angle R and draw an arc from the vertex. All right, there's my arc. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to call this point R. There's my arc. Now I'm going to come back and I'm going to measure how big that arc is. This is how I duplicate a segment. And I'm going to find that point over here. Alright, so that point is on my angle. So again, I called that R. Alright, there we go. So I'm just going to label my points, R, and then this will be angle Q. And if you measure it, you'll see that it's the same. It's a little bigger than 90 degrees. Alright, so if you look at your triangle and you look at my triangle, again, mine's a little different because it's on the smartboard, but all three of these angles are going to be exactly the same, but our triangles are not the same. And again, you can compare with somebody else who has done this. I'm not going to actually measure all of these, but you should, on yours, use your compass, or use your protractor to measure your angles, and use your ruler to measure your sides. All of your angles should be exactly the same because you're duplicating the same angles. So it says if 3 angles of one triangle are congruent to 3 angles of the other triangle, then, and for this one, the triangles are not necessarily congruent. So angle, angle, angle is not a congruent shortcut. The angles could be exactly the same, but the sides are going to be different. So if I had made this side shorter, I could have moved all of this stuff over. I would have duplicated the same angle, but that triangle is clearly way smaller than this triangle. Alright, those are 2 very different triangles. All the angles are the same, but the sides are very different. So angle, angle, angle is not a congruent shortcut. Alright, and then the last one, to the right, construct a triangle from the 3 parts shown. Be sure to match up the angles of the endpoints labeled with the same letter. Okay, so for this one, this is a little more complicated, and I'm not going to walk through the whole construction because it deals with duplicating parallel lines and everything. But if you have, this is side, angle, angle. So if you have this fixed side, and I'm just going to play around with this like just by cutting and pasting instead of constructing the whole thing. But if you have this side, I'm going to copy it here. And then if this angle is at K, and again, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so that it fits actually what we were working with. Alright, so if this angle is at K, then I can extend this. I'll have to extend it to make it longer. And then if this angle is angle J, now it's not angle L, it's angle J. So it's going to be up here. All right, and we have to make this so that this angle goes through L. So I'm just going to build a new line so that you can see, so that it extends angle J. And then I'm going to group them together. So this line is part of angle J. Okay, so I have to have this angle so that it goes through point L. This is the only spot it can go. Okay, so KJ has to be this long, and KL, which was a fixed segment, has to be this long. So if I have this long of a segment for KJ, which this is KJ right here, we'll do it in red. So this is KJ. If it's this long, then this angle at J does not go through L. This is not a triangle. But if it's only this long, then it goes through L. So this is a triangle. If it's any shorter than that, then again, it doesn't go through L. So KL is not on the triangle. So here, if you have this case, side angle, where you have two fixed angles and a non-included side, that is a congruent shortcut. So if you measure out those angles and you measure off those sides in every triangle, compare with your group or compare with your peers, in every triangle, they will be exactly the same. So the two triangles are congruent. So this is side angle is a valid shortcut. All right, so that's all for this lesson. So again, it was a little bit more constructing, but the idea is that you understand the reason behind those shortcuts and why they work or why they don't work. Angle, for example, does not work, and side angle from lesson 4.4 does not work. So you need to understand why those don't work, and also why the shortcuts that we do have are valid shortcuts. So please jot down any questions you have, and we'll go through this in class next time I see you. Thank you.